You're listening to the Cynic Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cynic.
Welcome back to the Cynic Radio Podcast. I'm Igri here with Cynic. We're excited to have you back, and thanks for listening. This week, we'll be talking about the Walking Dead episode, The Well. We'll be talking about UFC 205. We'll have What's Up. Let's get into it. Here we go.
All right, everybody. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about UFC 205, live from the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, November 12th, only on pay-per-view. Joining me as always, my co-host Igri, and for the first time ever on the podcast, MMA expert and all-around snappy dresser, Ty Crack.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming. I know this is going to be a stretch, but we're going to have a good time.
So far, so good.
What can you say about this next fight? It's definitely going to be a hard-hitting affair. I wish it was a contenders fight, but it really pretty much isn't. We're looking at Frankie the Edgar Answer, New Jersey's own, against Jeremy, who the fuck is that, Stevens?
Yeah, well, this is going to be a good fight. I mean, these guys always have a tendency to move pretty quickly around the ring. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of striking, and there's a lot of ground and pound action in these fights.
I would, I disagree, Cynic. I think this could be a contenders fight. I mean, Frankie was on a tear clearly before he lost to Jose Aldo, and it really just goes to show the size of the card when you think of Frankie being in the co-main event at UFC 200, and here we are a couple months later, and he's headlining the prelim card. As for Jeremy Stevens, I mean, he's got a nasty knockout power, but he's been flip-flopping wins and losses a lot. I have to absolutely 100% go with Frankie on this one.
Well, 4-3 in his last 7 fights. Jeremy Stevens definitely is not a contender in my eyes. He may be on a little bit of a roll, but I'm going with Frankie all the way. Even though his last fight with Aldo didn't look very inspired, he came out of the gate soft, kind of looked lackluster. The leg kicks really took him out of the fight.
Well, I think myself, the age difference and the size difference, now they're both, of course, close to the same weight, but the extra reach and the extra length that Jeremy Stevens has, and being 5 years younger, I mean, Frankie's got to be getting close to the end of his career as far as age and everything, because that's going to start to sneak up on anyone at any time. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to think Jeremy Stevens is going to pull this, even though he's been rocky in his last few fights. I think Jeremy's going to get it. He's got age, he's got a little bit of strength, and he's coming off of a strong fight.
Well, I would agree with you to a point. I mean, the change in weight classes have definitely rejuvenated Frankie Edgar. Is he getting a little long in the tooth? Sure, but I think he's got quite a few more, at least another championship run ahead of him.
I think you're right. The championship run could be there, but I think Jeremy Stevens stands in the way. And I stand by it. I think Jeremy Stevens is going to take this fight. Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, I got to go with Frankie once again. I think if you gun to my head, we got to go with Frankie Edgar.
Well, there you have it.
In what has to be considered a contenders fight for the coveted middleweight belt, we have Yoel Romero versus Chris the All-American Weidman. Ty, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Well, I'm not actually a big fan of the Soldier of God, Yoel Romero. Politics aside, I just don't think... I don't know. I mean, I think he's an outright cheater. Going back a few fights, I mean, his fight against Tim Kennedy when he didn't get off the stand between rounds and got away with it. His tainted supplement run that he's been on. The fact that after his last fight, he said something to the effect of, we want Jesus, not gay Jesus. And then recanted that statement. So that aside, I mean, Chris Weidman, his only loss was his last fight to Luke Rockhold. And it was a great fight, I think, until that point. Rockhold got him with a great shot and then ended up going in and finishing. They've both been off for a while, as I can recall. And I have got to go with Weidman by decision on this one.
Well, I think you're right. And, there's a couple of things going against Romero. One is his age. He's old, but he is very experienced. I mean, with all of his time actually wrestling, being an Olympic wrestler, being a world champion, the amount of things he's done in the physical world has been pretty amazing. But, you know, all these knocks against him are going to come back and bite him in the ass. You know, his last fight went the distance at a split decision, and I think Weidman's fight last time could have gone either way. He just kind of got the best of him. But before that, I mean, he was unbeatable before that because he's only lost one fight, and it was still fight of the night, so it must have been a great thing. So I'm going to go Weidman, but I'm going to go Weidman in 2, and I think he's going to get it by submission.
Well, Weidman's taken some time off after the loss to Rockhold. I believe he's been dealing with some injuries. Romero's coming off some sort of shady-like suspension for some sort of tainted supplement. It's a definite wrestler versus wrestler matchup. Both of them have pretty good punching power. However, I'm going to go with Romero by decision. And let's get on to the next fight. All right, we hit our first championship card fight on the card. We got the strawweight champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus
Karolina Kowalkiewicz.
That's right. She's almost unpronounceable. But with a combined, you can't say their names, but you've got to respect the talent. With a combined record of 22-0, these girls mean business. Ty, how do you feel about this fight?
Well, other than the women being probably the 2 hardest names to say in the entire UFC, Joanna's she's a beast, man. She's incredible. I mean, her last fight with Claudia Gadelha was an amazing fight. I think she's a star, even though English isn't her first language. There's just something about her personality that kind of transcends language. She really, I think the UFC found something special with her. I don't really know too much about Karolina. I know, she beat Thug Rose. I believe it was a decision. And I mean, I got to go with what I know, and I'm going to go with Joanna Champion, as she likes to be called.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at it. They're both good fighters. They're both undefeated. Little more experience on Joanna's side. The Polish Princess, though, looks pretty strong, and she's got a back style of Krav Maga, too, which is pretty impressive when you start putting that in an MMA application. I'm gonna go for the upset because I think it's really hard to continue maintaining that championship belt. I mean, she's already had a defense, Joanna has, so I think that she's gonna lose it, and I think that it's gonna be a submission, and I think it's gonna go into round 3, but I think there's gonna be a submission in round 3.
Listen, Carolina, she's no joke with a 10-0 record. They fought once before, I believe, as amateurs, and I believe Joanna came out on top. I'm looking for the same thing to happen in this fight. She is without a doubt the most gifted striker in either women's division, probably in all MMA. You can't say enough about her personality, her attitude. She's infectious with the way she does things. I mean, she didn't come out looking the best on The Ultimate Fighter as a coach, but she is definitely a quality person and probably one of the greatest women fighters of all time. Probably also in the pound-for-pound rankings, maybe top 10. So I think Joanna in round 2 via strikes.
All right, so there you have it. 2 for Joanna, 1 for Karolina. These guys are going to cry in their milk when I beat them on all these calls because I tend to go the other way from these guys. Let's look at the next fight.
In our second of 3 championship fights in this very stacked card, in the welterweight division, we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Tyron the Chosen Woodley.
Tyron smashed Lawler in his last fight, won the title, and then immediately asked for a money fight. When Dana White wouldn't give it to him, insisted he fight Thompson, I think Woodley took that to heart. However, I don't think that he's really taking Stephen Thompson seriously enough. I mean, Wonderboy came in the UFC, had an amazing head kick knockout, and then really got beat up by Matt Brown. And since then, I think he's won 7 in a row. He does train with Chris Weidman over in New York now. I believe he's married to Weidman's sister or something. I think they're actually technically related now. I think Thompson could take this fight. I think Woodley has a tendency sometimes to not put it all out there when he can, and I think he's going to get caught off guard, and Thompson's going to run all over him.
I agree. I agree completely. And here's the thing. I think the kickboxing career for Thompson previously is going to play into this. I think, he's 20-0 in his kickboxing career. He's on a 7-win streak. I don't think he takes anybody lightly. I think he goes after every fight with full intensity, ready to go. I think Woodley's going to rest on his laurels a little bit. I don't think he prepared fully for this fight, even after the big win over Robbie Lawler. I think that this is going to go the way you just said it is, and I think it's going to go in strikes. I think it's going to go KO in 2.
Stephen Thompson's a very decorated kickboxer. I believe he came in at almost 60-0. Dana White once said that Tyron fades in the spotlight, and I believe that to be true. I don't think his knockout of Robbie Lawler was an aberration. However, I don't see it going Woodley's way. He's going to have to utilize his wrestling, and if he doesn't, I look for him to be knocked out in the first round by probably a head kick.
Well, there you have it. All three of us, we must be mystics. We got all together on one of these, so we're all picking Stephen Thompson. Let's talk about the next fight.
Well, boys and girls, the fight we've all been waiting for. For years, as MMA and UFC fans, we've been promised a super fight, and now we've got one. Eddie the Underground King Alvarez takes on the notorious Conor McGregor.
I mean, say what you want about McGregor, but his last fight with Diaz was a close one. It could have gone either way, I think. Diaz could have easily won. He's changed the game. I mean, he came in, he's done what he said he's going to do. He did it to Poirier. He did it to, he got stopped by Diaz. He knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, even though he took a shot that left him with, I believe, with a broken nose. But the guy's a star. He really is. Which could also be a distraction. I think Dana White has told him if he does get the lightweight belt, if he beats Eddie, he'll be stripped of the featherweight belt, rightfully so. I think he hasn't defended that pretty much all year. Then there's Eddie Alvarez, who is a little more of an unknown. Fought in the UFC. He was great in Bellator. He's been dropped a lot, a whole lot. And McGregor hits hard. This is a real tough one to call. If I'm going with my gut, I think McGregor takes it. I really do. I think McGregor gets both titles. He gets to hold them up in the air before he gets stripped of the next one the day after. And I believe history's going to be made. What do you think, Ig?
Well, I disagree. What I think is he's changing weight classes too quickly. I think he's going somewhere where he doesn't have any business being right now. I think McGregor's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. He is amazing, and he's strong, and he's passionate. But I think he's putting the cart before the horse. I think he's thinking way too much about history, and I want to be able to raise both belts, and I want to be able to say that I've done it and I'm the first one to do it. And I think Alvarez is gonna give it to him, and I think it's gonna show some weakness, and I think that he's gonna be more prepared for this fight. Alvarez is no joke. I mean, he is 28-4. He's got 15 wins by knockout, 7 by submission. I mean, he can get in there and he can do it. He's got the background. He's a boxer. He's a wrestler. He's got the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I think Alvarez is going to pull it out of him. I think it might go the distance, but I think Alvarez is going to win this fight.
So you're going Alvarez?
I am going Alvarez. I think Alvarez is going to take it from him.
What do you think? How?
I think he's going to get it. I think it's going to just go decision.
By Monster Energy drink, possibly?
Very well.
Conor McGregor is a superstar. He's a game changer. He's exactly what the sport needed now that George St. Pierre is off chasing spaceships and John Jones can't seem to keep himself straight. I've watched him throughout his career, which hasn't been extremely long, but it's been impactful. At a record of 20-3, I believe that he takes Eddie Alvarez. I think it's going to go 3 rounds. I think Mystic Mac puts him out, and we'll be looking at a 2-division champion.
Well, there you have it. There's our take on MMA. We're all split on most of these cards. We're looking for a great bout. It's going to be a fun card. Make sure and check in. Send us your thoughts afterwards. Let us know. Cynic Radio, CINIK radio.com or cynicradio@gmail.com, CINIK.
UFC 205, Madison Square Garden. Be there or be home watching it on pay-per-view.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for Really. I'd explain it. Just listen. You'll get it.
My Really this week, it goes out to the keyboard warriors of social media. Some of you are so hurried to spread hate, it seems like you barely have the time to stop and Google and verify your story to see if it's true or even current. Be responsible with your posting. Have respect for yourself, the people you're trying to force your opinion on, and the process. I wish we could go back in time. And much like religion, people didn't discuss who they were voting for. It was between you and the booth. So to you, newly found Facebook political journalists, really?
Really for me this week, the leaders of the Oregon Wildlife Refuge standoff were found not guilty of federal conspiracy and weapons charges. One member of the all-white jury told reporters he felt the prosecution failed to prove intent. After the acquittals were read, Ammon Bundy's lawyer had to be subdued with a stun gun when he allegedly became disruptive and tried to prevent marshals from holding his client further. All I can say to this is, really?
Once again, it's time to talk about The Walking Dead. We're going into episode 2, The Well, which I kind of felt was a cool-down episode. What America really needs is just a chance to take a deep breath and realize the world's not over, the story needs to continue, and everybody needs to kind of sit back and take a breath.
That's true, and this was a good breath. I really enjoyed the episode. Let's talk about it.
All right, well, we open up the show with Morgan still kind of marking his path like we did when we kind of rediscovered him when he was looking for Rick's group.
Right. And, Morgan is just being Morgan. And I like that about him. It shows that, he's a very consistent person and that he's a man of his word. He's going to do the things that he says he's going to do.
Yeah, how do you feel about the whole Kane in Kung Fu thing that he's got going on with the staff and the wandering and the serenity?
Well, after the episode that kind of showed where that all came from a couple of seasons back, I'm glad that that's becoming more of a part of who he is. I understand the need to pick up the gun toward the end of the last season to save Carol, but the thing is that's not Morgan. That's just not. So I'm happy that he's kind of staying clean to his roots. And he's not doing it Kane where he's walking the earth encountering different people. He's almost more like that very protective guard dog, I guess, would be the best way I can think about it.
Agreed. So we open the episode and we got Morgan, a couple, the mounted cavalry, which we don't know who they are yet, and they're pulling Carol in a cart. And the episode opens kind of fast where it's probably my favorite scene of the episode where we have a Walker mounted cavalry type battle.
Yeah, it was really cool. And these guys are wearing some form of armor that's supposed to probably help them in some way. I could see, it looked like they're wearing shin guards and stuff on their arms, and that's probably going to prevent them from getting bites and things on their arms. And while they have some guns and things like that, they're also using quieter weapons, which I would assume would bring less walkers around and let you kill the minimal amount of things you need to before you continue moving on. The reason I would think, being a veteran, that would be important is the less you're having to expend trying to kill walkers to get out of something, the less energy you're using, less potential ammo, you're saving your stuff for other situations further down the road. I think though that scene itself was very strong, and I think it worked. I think it was neat to see a different way of people going about it. They were very coordinated.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows you the difference in each camp. Each camp handles everything a little bit differently. I think the Walker kill of the show happened almost immediately. One of the riders came up and made an absolute Pez dispenser out of one of the roamers there.
Oh, definitely kill of the week on that one. It was really cool.
Mid-battle, Carol gets up and does her best 50 Cent impersonation, and she's been hit with a few shells. Now she's walking with a limp away.
That's right. Well, who was it? Yogi Berra said no matter where you get hit, you got to limp to first base, right?
So she wakes up. We find out that it's 2 days later. Morgan kind of watching over her. She's in what looks to be either like a dorm room or a hospital room.
And she looks like she's doing a little better, but she also looks clean, like she's been taken care of. And it appears or feels like Morgan has just kind of been there, watching over her. He's like a guardian angel.
I think he kind of feels a little bit responsible. If he would have let her kill the wolf back in Alexandria, a lot of these things wouldn't have happened.
That's true. And, it just kind of goes back to Morgan's, chi believings and yin and yang. And he needs to, now he's seeing the error of his ways.
Well, I believe in the comic, this place is called the Kingdom, and I believe it's a college or some sort of boarding school. He gets Carol up, and he's taking her to see the leader of the place, but he's kind of being vague about where they're going, who they're going to see.
And, kind of rightfully so. I think if he'd have told her beforehand, she'd have been, you can't be serious. I'm not talking to this guy. I mean, this was a pretty big reveal, and to be honest, I think it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was bigger than anyone could expect, I guess.
So she gets led into an auditorium, very much like a high school or college auditorium. And there's a guy on a throne, dreadlocks, looking very regal, so to say, with a massive, I believe it's a Bengal tiger, right?
I think it is, and I think just walking into that scene with a dude just holding onto a chain with a tiger that isn't held by anything else but his hand might have been a little jarring at first for Carol.
Yeah, I think she was kind of taken back a little bit, especially when she found out his name was King Ezekiel, which, by the way, I think they nailed the casting on. I think that guy is perfect. He's right out of the comic book. I can't say anything bad about his performance. Probably one of my new favorite characters for the season.
And the thing is he was playing the role. He was talking like a king and not like I'm in charge of you, king, more like a medieval British king. And the tiger, Shiva, is a powerful icon for a king to have. And it seemed like he had at least a form of control over the tiger. Little side note, I think the tiger is going to end up like dragons in Game of Thrones, where CGI is expensive, because that CGI is very well done. That tiger was very, very pretty to look at.
They did a good job, and I think 5 years ago it would have been completely impossible for them to do. But they've got that stuff down now. I mean, it looked like a tiger was sitting next to him.
It did, and it also looked like the tiger was ready to jump if he gave that tiger the word, because it didn't lay down and relax at all either.
Yeah, it almost like it sensed Carol's apprehension a little bit.
I think so, and that might be something they're trying to convey in the show, because the thing that I think The Walking Dead is good at is trying to convey feelings that aren't necessarily said right away. They're good at trying to let everybody know things without outright saying it. They're good at the subtleties.
Well, quality acting, quality writing, that's for sure. So, outside of Ezekiel, my second favorite background character, my main favorite background character is probably Jerry the Guardsman.
Oh, Jerry the Guardsman is the best, because you got King Ezekiel talking like an old British king, like he comes right out of Shakespeare. And then you basically have Flava Flav standing behind him like a hype man. He talks like he just came off the street. And he's hilarious. I mean, he's obviously dedicated to the cause going on there, but he's still stuck in his old ways, and he's having a good time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's imposing, and but he's also kind of hip and funny, and definitely good comic relief to the straight man that is King Ezekiel.
That's true, and he always keeps himself in hollering range.
And you can tell Carol, even though she went straight to the Alexandria Innocent Act, like I think it was, I don't know what's going on in the most wonderful way. You can tell by her facial expression she's calling bullshit right away.
Oh, complete bullshit right away. She's like, you can't be serious. This is, I mean, how are we supposed to take any of this seriously? But, you know, the fact of the matter remains that, you know, she's there, she's been fed, she's been taken care of. And I think, you know, moving forward, that's what Morgan was trying to explain to her is like, you know, they've got something working here, you know, give it a chance.
They absolutely do. It's probably, well, we haven't seen what the Savior's compound looks like yet, but it's probably the most well-organized and well-supplied camp that we've encountered so far.
Absolutely. And, you know, they've got a multitude of things going on between farming and, you know, people doing laundry and stuff. So they're keeping themselves clean. They're keeping themselves happy and organized. They've got books. They've got choirs. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Ezekiel should be proud of what he built there. So we jump forward a little bit in the story, and there's a bunch of people from the kingdom kind of out in a warehouse district, and you see that they're feeding these pigs a chained up walker.
Right. You know, what they're doing is, you know, they're trying to make sure that these pigs are well fed for whatever reason. It's King Ezekiel's mandate that they be fed rotting flesh, I think. We'll get to why that is shortly here. Yeah,
absolutely. They can't be feeding it to their own people.
No, absolutely not. And this becomes even, this is where it ties it back into everything else. It shows that Carol and Morgan, although separated from our cast of lovable bandits, are still connected. And that's where it comes to, is that they're herding and capturing and feeding these pigs so that they can slaughter them and sell them to Negan's people.
Yeah, that comes out a little bit later. So there's a little bit of a skirmish with the walkers. We see that Ben has complete a lack of confidence, and he wouldn't move. And one thing I noticed, at least from the show to the comic book, Ezekiel wasn't much of a warrior, in my opinion, in the comic book.
Well, he didn't really come out as much of a warrior here either. While he did kill a walker, the walker was already on the ground, and it took just basically a stab to the head. But I don't think his strong suit needs to be that of a warrior. I think his strong suit needs to be a leader. And, you know, and what it looks like he's doing is he has the people all united toward a common goal, and the common goal is survival.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they kill a few walkers. They're going to hightail it out. The truck with the slaughtered pigs goes in a different direction. Ezekiel tells Morgan that's going to a different place, still being very vague on what's going on here. Ezekiel does a little bit of a monologue before they jump in the truck and says something about them being free. And his kind of right-hand man, Richard, yells, "We're only half free." Ezekiel throws him a look, and the truck leaves. So what did you think about what he said? They're only half free.
Well, you know, that was the allusion to the other group that they're going to have some dealings with, like I alluded to, selling or giving the slaughtered pigs to someone else, basically as payment to not come and overtake what they've got going on. You know, it's a new world order in the zombie apocalypse. It's not clean, and sometimes there's dangers that aren't evident, like the walkers. The walkers are the evident danger, but other things in the world could come up. So you can only really be half free because you need to keep yourself protected.
Yeah, agreed. So it's later revealed that Negan's saviors also have their hooks in the kingdom as well. So we get back to the kingdom, and King Ezekiel asks Morgan about his staff.
Right. And, you know, how did you get it? How did you get so good with it? And Morgan is more or less just kind of letting it go and putting it off. King Ezekiel said that, we tried to teach Ben with firearms. He wasn't good at that. Tried to teach him with a machete. He's not good at that. And so maybe it's his aptitude with those things. Maybe it's the teachers, but could you try and teach him the staff? Because you seem very good with it. Because he said you took down a walker with just one stroke. So...
yeah, absolutely. And well, it's not only the effectiveness of the weapon, but the calm in which he uses it. You can tell there's a complete center going on there with him. So Ezekiel requests that he kind of takes Ben on as his Padawan learner. You could see that Alexandria is definitely on Morgan's mind, and he has no intentions in staying any longer than he needs to.
Right, but, he also, I think, sees the importance of passing on some of this so that not only the skill of the staff continues to someone else, but more the calm and everything that goes along with it, the ethics that goes along with what he's learned, and why it needs to be so precise, and why you practice and why you go through the things, because it's more about centering yourself and more about remaining calm than it is about the absolute offensive capabilities.
Yeah, the Aikido is just amazing if mastered right. So we get to one of my favorite parts of the episode. Carol starts her covert mission to escape. That was definitely a high point for me.
It was, and I mean, she's a decent actor, not only the actress that actually plays Carol, but Carol herself, playing different people so that she can gather some supplies to start to make her exit, because she's so much as told Morgan that I'm only staying until I can get out of here, because this is not the place for me.
Yeah, she definitely came for the medical attention and then stayed for the cobbler.
Yeah, there's a lunch cobbler? Everybody's got to love cobbler.
So we go back to Morgan and Ben kind of working on their moves, getting their Jedi on, and Ben kind of strong arms Morgan's only book.
But, to the other side of it, Morgan's probably read that book 30 or 40 times. He may have a great deal of it memorized, and I understand that even so, he likes to read his book. But I think that would be the thing that's going to help seal the deal for Ben. He's going to realize that all of this staff swinging is hand in hand with the book of philosophy.
So we cut to the big meet. I call the scene Meet the Saviors. It looks like it's going well until Richard, King Ezekiel's right-hand man, kind of gets in a scrap with this. He kind of bucks up to this guy later revealed as Jared. Squirmy little guy, long hair. It doesn't look like he could put much of a fight on his own.
Right, but he decides he's going to anyway because, apparently the Saviors are just a bunch of internet tough guys, but, they're going to actually take the swing, and King Ezekiel tells his people this is not how we do this, and basically tells his man to stand there. And his man stands there and takes a beating, and King Ezekiel pleads with the Savior's leader, who is there at the moment, to make it stop, because this is what we're here for.
Yeah, Richard absolutely destroys Jared before then. That's the thing about the Saviors, is that Rick's group on 2 different occasions, and maybe even 3, were able to just completely overpower them with smaller numbers. They're a safety in numbers group. I don't think they're really a bunch of fighters.
They're really not. But the thing is they tend to travel in large enough groups and with enough firepower that's their safety net. They aren't doing it with tactics. They aren't doing it with ability. They're doing it with numbers and ammunition.
Absolutely agreed. Ezekiel seems a little apprehensive about anybody in the kingdom knowing about the arrangement with the Saviors.
And he should, because if they know things are going on, then the peace that is in his kingdom might not be as good as it is, because they would all then be worried about, what if we can't make these demands? What if we can't show up with the things they're asking for? Are they going to come here? Are they going to hurt us? Are they going to, these are not good people. And if the rest of his kingdom had any idea how bad these people were, I'm not sure it'd be good for the kingdom. So I think King Ezekiel is doing the right thing. But again, he's also feeding them pigs filled with walker meat. Who knows what kind of effect that could have?
Yeah, everybody lowers their guns. They get in their vehicles to leave, and the foreman savior lets Ezekiel know next week is produce week, so produce. That was very punny, sir.
It was very punny, but they've got it. I hope they've got a good crop, because it seems like they want a sizable amount of materials coming. Because what was it, like something like 12 pretty decent sized pigs that they were providing them.
Yeah, I don't see how this arrangement with the Saviors would be sustainable over a long period of time.
Well, unless you get a much bigger farm running, that's absolutely true. So I think this is a short-term goal. This is a stretch. I think it's a short-term goal for King Ezekiel, because I think he's got other plans.
So we shoot back to the kingdom. Ben and Morgan are eating together. They discuss the loss of Ben's dad. And much like Richard, Ben doesn't seem to agree with the arrangement with the Saviors either.
But he's also a good soldier and is following the direction.
You can tell that Morgan's still on the path that he's always been, but the murder definitely haunts him a little bit.
It does, and I like that it is, but I'm hoping that he finds a way past it.
So we jump to that night. Carol's about to attempt her grand escape, but first let's steal a couple apples on our way out the door.
Well, you got to bring some food. I mean, you ever try to run away from home as a kid? You have to bring some peanut butter.
The attempts of escape this season seem to be brief, because she's instantly caught by King Ezekiel and Jerry.
With some pretty cool braziers that he's lighting. They light up pretty quickly. And again, Jerry goes off to hollering range, and they begin their conversation, casual conversation.
Once again, though, Carol's throwing up the no fucks given attitude towards Ezekiel. He kind of tries to tell her to drop the innocent act, and he wants to have a conversation with her. We get a little bit more into Ezekiel's background. He kind of gives his origin story a little bit.
He does, and the reason he's got Shiva is he was a zookeeper, and he helped Shiva. And Shiva, as he says, since then has never even so much as turned a tooth his way. And he also drops the act and goes to talking like a normal person of the time, saying that basically he's filling a role for the people. They needed someone to follow. It worked, and it may not be the best thing, but it's a thing that's working for the people there at the time.
Absolutely. He lays his cards on the table. He also tells her that he was an actor in community theater before this, so he'd played a couple kings in his time. And with that, Carol responds very indignantly, "I don't care. Do what you want."
Right, but he tries to get her to understand that there's more to it than one or two of us doing what we want to do. The only way to survive this is to have a community, and sometimes, and not even sometimes, every time in a community, there needs to be someone responsible. There needs to be someone in charge.
Now, this was a little bit of a flip from the comic books, because this conversation actually happened with Michonne. I believe at this point in the comics, Carol and Morgan are both dead, so they're kind of going off script a little bit, but I do like the change.
The change is working. I don't think we need to kill Morgan and Carol yet. I think that they still could be playing some very important roles, and especially Morgan, because you need someone kind of running the other direction, because everybody in this so far has shown the abilities to be violent to the extreme. And while it is violence from Morgan, it is more of a controlled violence and only when necessary violence.
Absolutely. So Ezekiel reasons with Carol and tells her, well, maybe you can go against the contradiction and leave but not leave. They end up setting her in a house just outside of the kingdom.
And that's the thing, is she can be there. She can do as she wants. She's not being constantly oversought by the kingdom or King Ezekiel himself. But she's still there. She can still be a part of it. She can still come in, and if she needs something, and she's there, she's not there. She's a protector, but she's also on her own. So it is living the contradiction, be the contradiction, I think, as King Ezekiel said.
Absolutely. I mean, she can be as responsible for the area or herself as she wants. We cut, she's kind of set up in the house a little bit. There's a knock on the door and a tiger growl. So obviously we know who's at the door.
Right. King Ezekiel with his pomegranate. You have got to try one of these. I loved it. I loved it. I mean, the only thing would have made it better is if he'd have brought a chocolate bar with it, because she's like, oh, get that and some chocolate, and I'd be right in. But I liked it. I liked that he showed up basically as a friend. Obviously, he showed up with the tiger, which might have shown a little bit of power, but I don't think it was intended to be that way.
Yeah, I think that is purely for protection. In the comic books, I know Shiva is an absolute beast when it comes to dealing with walkers. So if he's going to go out alone, what better way? You know, he said the tiger eats as much as 10 men. So,
well, and the thing is as I said, you know, he killed a walker earlier, but it was a walker that was already downed. He may not be all that much of a warrior, but you know, walk around with a Bengal tiger. Do you need to be?
absolutely. So I think the cosplayer of the episode goes to King Ezekiel.
Absolutely. He plays a good royal king. He'd be welcome at any Renfest in the country, I think.
Absolutely. One thing that bothered me a little bit, being a guy of size myself, poor Jerry. I mean, they stuck him in probably small XL armor. They get the guy a little bit bigger armor.
Yeah, just come on. You know, it's like we don't need to do the fat guy in a little coat as much.
The feedback on this episode, a lot of people are kind of tired of the whole Carol thing. I think it works. Melissa McBride shines in this episode. She's a great actress. I want to kind of see where they go with it.
I do too. I hope that she changes tack a little bit. I think a cross between a strong Carol and, I don't know, maybe season 3 Carol.
Yeah,
might work. She, you know, I think we need to have a little bit of a cross. We don't want season 1 and 2 where she was still meek and everything. She needs to be strong, but she needs to be less, you know, thinking that everything is bullshit.
I personally loved Terminus Carol. That was my favorite version of the character.
Oh no, Terminus Carol that was on point.
Absolutely. Or the invasion of the Wolves Carol, where she kind of dressed up in the garb and played the part. That absolutely awesome.
Well, that was basically Terminus Carol again. You know, when she has a drive, when she has a purpose, when she's doing something and not just trying to emo out of whatever situation. I think that's the best Carol we need and love. So I think it's working.
Yeah, definitely a filler episode, but a kind of a cool down episode that everybody needed after the season premiere.
Yeah, I think I would give it about a 7. It's a good episode. It was a necessary episode. It's introducing some new characters. I think I'd go about a 7 on this one.
Absolutely. 7 sounds about fair. Some standout performances. A lot of information was given. Definitely some rewatchability in the episode. I can't wait to see where they go from here.
Yeah, I think the next episode's going to be a lot of fun.
On November 11th, 12th, and 13th, the biggest little city in the world, Providence, Rhode Island, is hosting the Rhode Island Comic Con. The Cynic Radio podcast will be on hand, interviewing people, stalking stars, leaving cards, and asking questions to anyone that stands still for more than 3 seconds at a time. You have been warned.
But I doubt anybody's going to heed that warning. We're looking forward to finding you all there. There's going to be a lot of stuff. We're really going to try and stalk some of these celebrities, but they're probably going to have big bouncers ready to knock us out of the way. Biggest of all, Mr. Stan Lee is going to be there, the creator of all this, the fandom of everything, really. I mean, everything that you can think of. I mean, even Star Wars, Star Trek, all that had to start out of Stan Lee. Stan Lee's the godfather of all this.
He absolutely is, and I believe he's retiring soon, so this will probably be the last chance anybody in New England gets to see the old guy.
And that it's going to be great, though. Stan Lee, Excelsior. You know, hopefully we get a moment to talk to you, give you a card. Come and listen to the podcast. We love you. You know, speaking of that, there's going to be some other people there. There's always, at any of these cons anymore, you're always going to get some Walking Dead people. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Maybe he'll even bring Lucille the Vampire Bat. We're hoping.
Yeah, that's the biggest get for me. That's what brought me to the Comic-Con itself, is the opportunity to kind of meet and greet the man.
Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, is going to be there. I'm excited a little bit to see her, but I'm not sure how long her line's going to be because she's kind of a bombshell. She's beautiful to look at. She will be there Sunday only, though, so you can't look at her for too long.
Yeah, as far it doesn't get too much bigger other than Batman and Superman when it comes to the DC universe. I heard just recently she very well might be pregnant, so who knows when she'll be doing another Comic-Con again.
And one of my most exciting ones, one of the ones I absolutely love and can't wait to see, Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. She's adorable. She's a great actor. She's bubbly. Every interview I've seen her in, she seems like she's just loving everything that's going on. I can't wait to see her there. I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, based on her interviews, I mean, you couldn't get a nicer and more congenial person. Not that bad of a rapper either, from what I've saw.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. You know, and moving down the list, there's always your obligatory Star Trek, Star Wars, some main characters, some outliers. You have some of your B-stars running around. You've got some people here at this con from Saved by the Bell. You've got people from the American Pie series. I mean, there's a lot of people here to see. I mean, really, if you can't find someone that you're interested in as far as the celebrity draw, I think you're not trying very hard because it's all here.
Oh yeah, we got some Legends of Tomorrow, especially the main villain from the first season. We got some Power Rangers and Sons of Anarchy. The cons that I've been to, the Sons of Anarchy people are always a draw. And we can't forget that there's a few more loose Walking Dead members there as well.
Oh, of course. And, you know, Walking Dead's always a big draw. And, I mean, you've even got some people that were there as walkers. And the comic book men are there, so, you know, maybe you can ask them your favorite comic-related questions that Stan Lee refuses to answer because he's got a line behind him and he thinks you're lame. I know he's going to think I'm lame. It's fine. I can deal with it. I'm only going to cry a little bit. And for all of us older people, the Buck Rogers group is going to be there. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely, too. And Napoleon Dynamite as well.
Hey, you got to love Napoleon Dynamite. If he brought Pedro, that would be a must-go.
Yeah, some interesting as far as cartoon voice narrow. Nolan North is one of the biggest voiceover guys in comics or cartoons right now.
He's very good, too. I mean, you know, just go listen to him talk for a minute. I think he's going to be on one of the panels, too. And there's going to be a lot of panels at this show. I mean, there's things for everybody at this show. There's auctions. There's going to be plenty of cosplay, and you're the people we really want to find. So if you see somebody running around in a black T-shirt that says Cynic on it, that's probably us. Spend a moment. We want to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to experience it, and I can't wait to interview some people that are attending.
Hey, and you know, anybody we can get some interviews with, take a look. We're going to have you on next week's podcast. We're excited. We want to see you. We want to be excited to see you. There are going to be some professional cosplayers there, too, that really spend some time and money and effort on their costumes. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is a great con. Obviously, it's not San Diego Comic-Con, but you know what? It's not that far back. It's very good. If you ever get a chance, maybe you don't make it this year. Maybe you're not making it our recommendation this year because it's too late. But anytime you get a chance to go to this one, this is one to go to.
Oh, absolutely. You're not going to find anything better outside of Toronto or New York or any of the major metropolitan cities.
Absolutely. This is a very good con with some very big draws. You're going to be happy, and we're excited to see you there.
That's right, the Rhode Island Comic-Con this weekend.
Hey, and now it's time for a little bit of What's Up. This is where we talk about what we think is up, what we think is cool, what we think is grand, what we think is awesome this week. This week for me, What's Up is the Netflix original movie, Mascots. Brought to you from the crazy people known for Spinal Tap, Best in Show, For Your Consideration, A Mighty Wind, Waiting for Guffman, those crazy motherfuckers. This show is sports mascots revealing the peculiarities of their ultra-competitive world as they pursue the highest honor in their field, the Gold Fluffy. This show is really fucking funny. It's a good time. And if you liked any of those movies, and I don't know who didn't like Spinal Tap or Best in Show, if you haven't seen them, go check them out. Mascots available on Netflix now. That's what's up.
Hey, what's up for me this week is HBO's Vice Principals. From the creators of Eastbound and Down, this cringe-inducing comedy starring the always brutal Danny McBride and breakout star Walton Goggins is a power struggle to see who will become principal of North Jackson High. The 9-episode run is both a fun and fast binge. You will laugh, you will cry, you will never trust anyone to get your coffee again. Vice Principals on HBO. That's what's up.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Cynic Radio Podcast. That's been Cynic. I'm Ig. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. In the meantime, send us your comments, questions, concerns, and family recipes at cynicradio.com, cynicradio@gmail.com, and on Twitter at Cynic Radio. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at cynicradio.com. Available for download on iTunes.